day I went home for vacation. My childhood friend, Willow, happened to see her mother introducing a blind date to me. She immediately frowned and said, in an annoyed tone, "Mom, why do you always love meddling in other people's business?" Her mother looked at her in surprise. "What are you angry about?" she asked. Everyone knew that although Willow and I were childhood friends, she was the cool, untouchable campus beauty, and I was just the poor underachiever. We were worlds apart, like clouds and mud. How could she ever be interested in me? However, what no one knew was that this was the third year since our bed partner relationship had ended. Back then, as she pulled up her stockings from her ankles, she said casually, "It's better to end it early anyway. After all, someone as useless as you could never give me the life I want." Chapter 1. Who's angry? Willow frowned slightly. "Don't waste your time. He'll never agree to it," Mrs. Liu asked. "And how are you so sure?" Willow didn't answer. She took her mother's phone, swiped through a few pictures of girls, and gave a confident, dismissive smile. Mrs. Liu knew that expression all too well. Willow had always been stunning, the center of attention wherever she went. Mrs. Liu sighed and said, "She's not as pretty as you." "That's true, but who knows? Maybe George will like her." Willow gave a short, sarcastic laugh. "Then go ahead and try." Her tone was indifferent, but she paused for a moment before stepping out the door. 10 minutes later, my text arrived. I wrote, "No need. Thank you, Auntie." A flicker of an "I told you so" crossed her face. She turned and left the house, not giving it another thought. So, she didn't notice the second message that followed. I wrote, "Auntie, I'll be getting engaged next week." Chapter 2. The summer when Willow shone the brightest was the darkest period of my life. It was the eve of winter break during my sophomore year in college, and our high school classmates were having a reunion. As I packed my luggage, I forced myself not to check whether Willow had replied to my message. She hadn't. Instead, she added someone new to our group chat. Everyone started teasing. "What's going on? Who's this guy?" Willow replied, "My boyfriend." So shy, so shy. The word boyfriend exploded in my head. I knew Willow was never short of admirers, but she had always been distant and aloof, so much so that I'd foolishly held onto a shred of hope. I opened the guy's profile picture. A custom-tailored suit, perfectly styled hair, handsome, confident, clearly a rich second generation. A strange wave of inferiority crept up my chest. I changed into a better outfit, used way too much hair wax, and kept adjusting my hairstyle in the mirror. But no matter what, I still looked pitifully out of place. When I arrived at the restaurant, the place was buzzing with laughter. The moment I stepped in, the noise died down. Willow was sitting beside her boyfriend. She leaned toward me, her brows raised, and smiled faintly. "George, how long has it been since you last washed your hair? It's so oily you could fry an egg with it." Her tone was casual, the kind of teasing friends do, exactly the same as always, but the difference was me. Her words froze me in place. Everyone burst into laughter. I laughed too, instinctively, trying to hide the embarrassment. "What's so funny?" her boyfriend said mildly. He passed me the menu and added, "Come on, pick what you want to eat. We were waiting for you." He spoke politely, acted graciously, and his social skills were leagues above mine. Talking to him felt easy, disarmingly easy. Of course, who wouldn't like a man like that? That night, I followed behind the group and watched as Willow's fingers intertwined with his. They looked perfect together. Later, someone suggested we go for drinks. Willow declined. I saw her getting into her boyfriend's luxury car. I was about to leave with the others, when Willow suddenly stopped me. Smiling, she said, "Makoto's been drinking. It's kind of hard to get a driver at this hour. Could you drive us home first?" I nodded, took the car keys, and got in. Halfway there, Willow suddenly said she wanted spicy crayfish. Her boyfriend turned to me and asked casually, "Wanna come join us?" Willow blinked at me. A clear signal, "Don't be the third wheel," I said. "I'll pass." I dropped them off at the restaurant. Before getting out, I heard her boyfriend laugh softly and ask, "Coming to my villa tonight?" The Beijing night was like ink. Cold wind slicing through my ears. His words were quiet, but painfully clear. They walked away, talking and laughing. I stood there, frozen, thinking of that night back in high school, when Willow waited under my building for me to ride her to school on my bike. Back then, I used to wonder, if one day I could drive, how would she feel sitting in my car? Now I know. They said Willow broke up after just 2 weeks. By then, we hadn't spoken in a long time. I was too busy with exams, research, and writing papers, busy trying to outgrow that dim, miserable version of myself. A few years later, just before my senior mentor graduated, he dragged me to a bar. He nudged me and said, "Do you guys know that beauty at the next table?" then added, "Word is, she's the campus goddess from the University of Science and Technology, and still single." Everyone turned to look. In that instant, all eyes were drawn to her striking beauty. I looked too. Willow was sitting in the center of a lively group, surrounded by handsome men and pretty girls. Someone said, "I'm going to get her WeChat." He stood up eagerly and walked over. 10 minutes later, he came back empty-handed. The girl next to me chuckled. "Didn't get it, huh?" He sighed. "She's famous at her school for being impossible to pursue." I excused myself to go to the restroom. When I came out, Willow was standing at the doorway, waiting. She wore a black turtleneck sweater that hugged her figure. Tall, elegant, effortlessly seductive. Her makeup was flawless, every line of her face stunning, and on her arm was my coat. She asked, "What did I ever do to offend you?" I said, "Nothing." Her tone sharpened. "Nothing. Then why did you block me?" Her dark eyes locked onto mine. So direct it made my chest tighten with irritation. I rubbed my temples and muttered, "Stop it. Just give me back my coat." She sidestepped, smirking. "No." Outside, snowflakes drifted through the freezing alley air. Then she asked, "The girl sitting next to you, your girlfriend?" Her tone carried a trace of disdain. "Tattoos, drinking, clubbing." When I didn't respond, she gave a soft, derisive laugh. "I don't mean anything by it," she said. "Just saying, you should be careful. She doesn't seem like a good girl." My gaze stayed fixed on her face, and suddenly, I realized, some things don't fade by staying away. You have to have them first. To quiet the obsession, I asked calmly, "Are you jealous?" She rolled her eyes. "Why would I be?" I interrupted her. "Willow, do you want to come home with me?" She froze. As if she didn't understand the question, I continued, "If you don't, that's fine. I'll take her home instead." I turned to leave, but she grabbed my sleeve. That night, under the first snow of November, began our secret, hidden relationship. At first, I just wanted to know, what would that proud, untouchable face look like when lost in desire? Now I knew. Even in bed, she was sharp-tongued as ever. With a look of disdain, she sneered, "Seriously, that's all you've got? How do you even dare to ask girls out?" But the tremor in her voice betrayed her. A moment later, she turned her face away, fighting back tears. I thought once I had her, I'd lose interest soon, but month after month, we became addicted, both of us, equally. I was beyond saving, and at times, I even thought maybe she liked me too. So one night, when she stood at the bathroom door, blow-drying her hair, and casually asked, "Do you like me?" I couldn't hold it in anymore. I said, "We should stop this kind of relationship." What I wanted to say was, "and start a real one." But before I could finish, she lowered her hand. The sound of the hairdryer stopped, and in the silence, only the water could be heard. She looked at me for a long time, leaning against the doorframe, smiling faintly, her tone teasing, but her eyes empty. "It's better to end it early anyway," she said softly. "Someone as useless as you could never give me the life I want. This thing between us, it doesn't even count as a breakup. You know that, right?" The warm mist in the bathroom slowly faded, hot and cold, rushing and retreating. That was when I truly wanted to walk away. All those years with her had only made me more aware of how ordinary I was. But even a man that ordinary has his limits to how much he can bow and break. Chapter 3. I sent a message, "Auntie, I'm getting engaged next week." Willow, who hadn't seen it yet, was attending her best friend's baby's first birthday banquet. She knew I would be there today. It had been 3 years since we last met. She carelessly glanced past my name in the group chat and found herself a seat. At the table, someone said, "Did you guys hear? Anna's getting engaged." Another person replied, "No way. She's been single for so many years. I was starting to think she didn't even like men. How'd she suddenly get a boyfriend?" Someone else added, "They met through a blind date." Willow raised an eyebrow slightly at that. Today, she seemed particularly sensitive to that phrase. Someone asked, "What's her fiancé like?" Another said, "Kind of like George." Willow's gaze drifted from the door to the person speaking. That person continued, "Oh, so that's her type. Then why didn't you ever think to introduce George to her?" Willow's expression remained indifferent, as if none of this concerned her. But the half-open window let in a cold draft, messing up the strands of hair near her cheek, and for a moment, her eyes darkened. Willow said softly, "I did introduce them once, but he wasn't interested." Anna was a rich girl, bold, passionate, and confident, the complete opposite of Willow. Willow continued, "Back in freshman year, I kindly asked George to walk her home, tried to give them a chance." Her tone was light, almost detached. He later complained to me that Anna was too self-willed. At that moment, Willow's best friend walked over. She was one of the few who knew about what had happened between Willow and me. She glanced at Willow with intrigue and asked, "Do you know what it means when they say, 'Can't see what's right under the lamp'?" Willow looked puzzled. Her friend didn't explain further, just squinted her eyes and smiled, saying to the others gossiping at the table, "They say she met him through a blind date, but actually, he's the man Anna's been secretly in love with for years. Too bad he was hopelessly devoted to someone else. Only now did she finally get the chance to steal him away." Everyone at the table gasped. "No way. Anna's got everything. Why would she play the homewrecker?" Someone asked. "So whose man did she steal?" Her friend said nothing, only nudged Willow with her elbow and asked, "Did Anna invite you to the engagement party?" "No," Willow replied. Her friend frowned. "That's strange. You two were close." Then, with a knowing smile, she leaned closer and asked, "Wanna see who she's marrying?" Without waiting for an answer, she took out her phone and placed it in front of Willow. Just as Willow lowered her gaze to look, someone nearby called out, "George, you're here?" Her eyes instantly shifted to the doorway, to me. I had just come from dinner, still wearing the same black suit. Her friend, Freya, gave me a meaningful look as she put her phone away and tilted her head toward Willow. "Been a while since you two last met, huh?" Willow's calm gaze rested on me for a moment, then turned away. She knew. I was wearing the same style of suit I had worn that snowy night. Our first time together. I'm sentimental that way. Once I get used to something, I tend to hold on to it. But she didn't know this. People aren't like objects. When I lose my way, I find my way back. I pulled out a chair and sat down. The long familiar air between us settled again. Willow didn't speak to me, didn't even touch me. She was popular, surrounded by people eager to talk to her. A classmate suddenly asked, "So, when are you two getting married?" They were pointing at Willow and me. Someone else quickly interjected, "What are you talking about? You're drunk." The classmate blinked in realization. "Oh, my bad. It's George. I thought he was Willow's boyfriend. You two, one in black, one in white, look like you're at your own wedding." Willow couldn't help it. She burst out laughing. It was the first time she'd laughed all night. Chapter 4. The banquet was over. Freya's husband drove us home. When I opened the car door to the back seat, I saw Willow sitting there. Drunk Willow didn't like to talk. She just liked to look at people with those cool, detached eyes. I got in and sat down. Her lips stayed tightly pressed together. It was a long drive back to the city. I leaned my head against the car window and closed my eyes to rest. Every time the car jolted, my head bumped lightly against the glass, but I didn't care. In the reflection, Willow's beautiful face flickered across the window. She stared at the distance between us, cold, unfamiliar, lost in thoughts I couldn't read. When the car stopped at my place, she got out too. She said, "It's been so long since we met. Aren't you going to invite me up? I've got something to say." The next second, as if drunk beyond control, she stumbled a couple of steps and nearly fell into my arms. I pushed her away immediately, leaned against the wall by the elevator, loosened my tie, and said flatly, "If you've got something to say it here." She rolled her eyes and forced a careless tone. "That guy my mom introduced, he's a decent match. Why didn't you go for it?" She lifted her gaze slightly, eyes probing. "Didn't like him. Then what kind of person do you like?" She was playing her old game again, asking questions she already knew the answers to. Squinting a little, she teased, "Don't tell me, someone like me." I frowned impatiently and shook my head. "No." "Then the opposite of me. Someone like Anna." My gaze froze. She smirked. "Too bad, it's too late. She's getting engaged." Willow seemed amused by her own words, and asked casually, "George, since you're going on blind dates anyway, why don't we give it a try?" Then she lifted her head and met my eyes directly. A faint smile curved her lips. "You weren't waiting for me to say that all along, were you?" "You're overthinking it," I said. I looked at her seriously. "That day we broke up, I made it very clear. We're over, for good." She tilted her head. "Really?" Tucking her hair behind her ear, she squinted at me like she was studying a clumsy lie. Then she laughed softly and said, "Oh, fine then. But don't marry someone random just to forget me." Willow's tone was confident, like she believed this was just another Simpturn master trick, a childish role reversal. It was naive, almost ridiculous. With a playful smile, she added, "I'm sure you'll find someone better than me. Let's hope you won't regret it." Chapter 5. Willow got back into the car, leaning against the window. She watched as the light in my apartment flicked on. She hadn't actually been drinking. Her glass had been filled with flat cola all along. On the drive back, Freya, sitting in the passenger seat, sighed helplessly. "You really didn't have to do all that, you know." She glanced back at Willow. "It's been 3 years since you broke up, and you're still so sharp-tongued. How can you be sure he still likes you?" The city lights streamed past the car, flickering across Willow's dark eyes. "I just know," she said. The car fell silent. So silent that Freya nearly dozed off, until Willow suddenly spoke again. We didn't break up. Freya frowned. What? Willow's tone was calm, almost matter-of-fact. George only said it was over. He never said, let's break up. Freya groaned. Did you two even have a real talk about it? Willow let out a cold little laugh. Why wouldn't it count? Of course it doesn't count, Freya said, shaking her head. He saw you with your first love. He knows exactly what you're like when you truly like someone. Willow, don't you think you're being a bit too self-righteous? You just assume he'll always like you because he spoiled you too much back in college. He'll move on. He can fall for someone else. Willow rolled her eyes and let out a mocking laugh, clearly unconvinced. He wouldn't dare. Freya gave up arguing and changed the subject. Anna's engagement is this Saturday. Are you going? Of course, Willow said. Why wouldn't I? She pouted slightly. I just want to ask her why she didn't invite me. Chapter 6. I once thought I couldn't do it. But in the first year after ending that twisted relationship with Willow, the obsession, the feeling that no one but her would do, faded away. What followed was a monk-like calm, a period of quiet detachment. I lived alone in Beijing while my friends around me got married one after another. I had liked her for more than 10 years, and it never led anywhere. I often thought, if only I had fallen for someone else, someone who actually liked me back, how lucky that would have been. Then maybe I wouldn't be here, meeting strangers on blind dates. It was in that mood that I walked into the restaurant and met Anna, a setup through my professor. She was taller than Willow, with a narrow waist, long legs, and striking curves, a kind of beauty that demanded attention. Hi, I'm George, I said, taking a seat. She had been looking at her phone, but when she saw me, she froze for a moment. I went straight to the point. So, are you the one I'm supposed to marry? Her lips parted slightly in surprise. I immediately tripped over my words. I mean, aren't you the one my professor introduced me to for this blind date? She blinked. No. Her voice was clear and light. A few minutes later, after checking my phone, I realized I had sat at the wrong table. My advisor's Mandarin has an accent. They said table 10, but it came out as table 4. I was so embarrassed I could have dug out a 3-bedroom apartment with my toes. I'm so sorry, I stammered, jumping to my feet, only to meet her calm, amused gaze. She was smiling. 6 years ago, you picked the wrong girlfriend, she said. 6 years later, you picked the wrong future wife. George, your eyesight really hasn't improved. Willow always thought I met Anna because of her, but that wasn't true. I hadn't seen Anna many times, but every encounter stayed vivid in my memory. The first was after school in our second year of high school. I had been waiting by my bike for Willow for a long time. She finally came out and said, "Don't wait for me. It's not like we have to go home together." She didn't want people to misunderstand our relationship. Normally, those words would have stung, but that day I said nothing. She asked, "What's wrong?" I said, "Someone from your class told me." She cut me off, impatient. "You mean that boy who confessed to me? He's from the next class over." I turned him down. "Okay." Then she snapped. "Who do you think you are? Anyway, my parents told you to look after me out of politeness, and you actually took it seriously." I frowned but said nothing more. I just stopped and turned back for a moment. Up on the second-floor corridor, the setting sun painted everything orange, and there was a girl standing there, watching me. What I had wanted to tell Willow was this. While I was waiting for her, one of her classmates, Anna, had come up to me and said softly, "Don't like her anymore. Like me instead." There had been sadness in her eyes when she said it. I remember thinking, she must have been hurting. The second time I met Anna was during sophomore year, on Valentine's Day. A bunch of us had rented a villa on a mountaintop to celebrate Willow's birthday. David, ever the joker, was doing fake fortune-telling for everyone. When it was my turn, he laughed and said, "George, my man, looks like you're in for some romance tonight. Love's in the air for you." But by then, Willow already had someone she was involved with. Her first love had been pursuing her intensely. The entire gathering had actually been organized by him for her. Of course, back then, I didn't know that. That night, I drove, waiting only to take Willow home. I laughed and waved off David's teasing. "That's nonsense." David, never one to back down when it came to his ridiculous fortune-telling, said firmly, "Hey, the night's not over yet. How do you know it's nonsense?" Just then, my phone buzzed. Willow's message popped up. "I want to go home. Haven't you had enough fun yet? Come out already." I turned my head and saw someone getting into a car outside the floor-to-ceiling window. I hurried out, not even bothering to put on my jacket properly. I pulled open the car door and blurted out, "So early," I thought, but the face that greeted me wasn't Willow's. Those clear, calm eyes, I recognized them instantly. It was Anna. Her expression said, "I knew you'd mistake me for someone else." She said, "I've got class tomorrow morning, so I'm leaving early." Inside the car, silence filled the space between two near strangers. I'd heard that Anna went abroad for college after high school. When I see someone I don't know well, my mind automatically replays every memory I have of them. But with her, There was only that one from sophomore year. Don't like her anymore. Like me instead. Maybe she'd only said it on a whim. With a face like hers, Anna had probably never lacked admirers. She'd have forgotten me long ago. Not sure if anyone else still needed a ride. I texted David to check, but before I could put the phone down, I accidentally tapped the voice message he sent back. His awful, raspy voice blared through the car speakers. Hey, is that Anna in your car, bro? That's one hell of a catch. She's even on those must-date rankings. Word is she's famous for it. I wonder what it's like to sleep with her. Don't waste time, man. Take her to a hotel now. I'll block the others for you. I slammed at the screen, mortified, wishing I could throw my phone out the window. What damn ranking? I've never even heard of it. Thanks to David, I was now even more tense. The whole drive was painfully quiet and awkward. At a red light, I glanced at Anna, who was wearing earphones and listening to music. Trying to break the silence, I asked, "What are you listening to? Let me hear it too." She hesitated, then said softly, "Okay," and that was it. I wanted to sink through the floor. What a stupid thing to ask. She handed me one side of her Bluetooth earphones. As soon as I put it on, a song started playing. You should just say goodbye out loud. Even if tears start to fall, forget this heartbreak, this tangled love, once and for all. Say goodbye out loud. If you could love bravely, you can part bravely too. Such an old song. Each lyric felt like a moral lesson in moving on, and I couldn't help but laugh. You really like this song? I asked. She nodded. Yeah. Even a beauty like her listened to sentimental breakup songs. I grinned. Haha. What? Still hung up on someone? She frowned slightly, looked at me for a moment, and then nodded again. Yeah. I asked. So, if you listen to that song enough times, you'll forget, right? She didn't answer. Instead, she rolled down the window. The air outside drifted in, salty, damp, carrying the scent of the sea glowing faintly under the twilight. The night breeze wrapped around us. I can't forget, she said. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. The wind blew through the car, tangling my hair. Then I heard her say softly, "George, relax. What I said before still counts." I turned my head. Those alluring peach blossom eyes of hers were fixed on me, as if saying, "Choose me, choose me, choose me." At that time, I was at the lowest point of my hopeless crush on Willow. I had imagined countless times what it would be like if she liked me back, driving together, sitting side by side, spending Valentine's Day at the seaside, listening to music. But by some strange twist of fate, that day, it all came true with Anna. So when I got home that night, Willow called. "Well, what do you think of her? Just so you know," she added teasingly, "she's got high standards, tough to chase." From the other end, a man's voice called Willow's name. I clenched the phone, silent for a long while. Then she laughed. "Don't tell me, you actually like her. If you beg me, I can put in a good word for you." She meant it sincerely, but I instinctively wanted to hide the truth. "I don't need help," I lied. "She's too spoiled. We don't get along." The third time I met Anna was 3 years ago, the day Willow and I finally ended whatever it was between us. Willow and Freya had gone drinking at a bar. Anna was there too. "Willow, are you heartbroken?" Freya tried to stop her from drinking too much. "Who was it? Who hurt our Willow?" "No one," Willow muttered. "No one hurt me." She refused to admit anything. "He wanted to leave, so let him." "I don't care." Her friends were shocked, though not exactly sympathetic. After all, Willow had always been the one doing the breaking up, never the one being left. No wonder she wasn't used to it. It was about time she experienced what it felt like. Among them, only Anna stayed beside her, talking softly, comforting her. So gentle, so considerate. Two beautiful women sitting together, quiet, tearful, drawing every gaze in the bar. Anna couldn't hold it in anymore. She hugged Willow tightly, hiding her own face. "It's such a pity," she murmured. The others sighed. "They're so close." That's true friendship between women. Later, Anna took Willow home. She tucked her into bed, made her hangover soup, and silenced her phone. Willow slept like a baby. Only then did Anna step outside. She leaned against the wall, put on her earphones, and played that same old song again. She listened for a long time, then stared into her compact mirror. After a moment of sadness and pity, a flicker of triumph rose in her eyes. She couldn't hold back her smile. Then she called a cab, riding through the quiet, steel blue city streets before dawn. She arrived at my apartment and knocked on my door. She said, "My best friend just broke up." We both knew who she meant, Willow. I thought she was there to confront me. "So?" I asked. But she said, "I feel awful. Comfort me." Anna's eyes were red, like she had been crying. I froze, flustered. "Don't be sad," I said quickly. "It's not because of you. I just don't love her anymore." "Hey, don't cry. Please don't cry." I reached out and pulled her into a hug. Her head rested on my shoulder, trembling with quiet sobs. She looked so fragile. A few seconds later, I realized I had crossed a line and started to let go, but her slender arms looped around my neck, holding me tight, erasing the space between us. I thought she must really be hurting. Only later did I understand. Willow never had to set anything up for me. Anna had been watching me all along, waiting for her moment. Chapter 7. Just like that night at the restaurant, I was still stuck in the embarrassment of having sat at the wrong table for the blind date. I apologized. Sorry. I stood up to leave. She grabbed my arm. She looked dangerously and coquettishly forward, impossibly flirtatious. She said, "You can marry me, but I don't want a marriage that's all polite distance and surface civility. I want us to be completely, utterly in love. George, can you do that?" I don't know why. I couldn't bear to see her unhappy again. Like a person who'd walked too long through a desert, I plunged headfirst into an ocean of affection. I said, "Okay." She clearly heard my answer, but froze, staring without blinking. I was the one who finally asked, "Do you have your ID with you?" She nodded. I hadn't brought mine, so I drove her to my place. I went inside, grabbed my ID, then rummaged through my mother's room for other things. My mom came in and asked what I was looking for. Before I could answer, she started on me. "You're not getting any younger, stop messing around. Did you know Willow came by?" She stopped to help Lou's mom deliver some local specialties. She asked whether you'd go to Freya's kid's anniversary next month. "Did you block Willow?" "You too." I pulled the box out and said, "Mom." I tucked the box into my pocket, took a deep breath, and felt a strange swelling in my chest. "I'm going to marry someone who really, really likes me," I said. My mom froze. She asked, "So, do you like her?" "I do," I said. "Oh, congratulations." "Then," she replied, without waiting for her to process it. I rushed downstairs. Anna was waiting by the car. When she saw me come out, she opened the door to get in. I grabbed her wrist and asked one more time, "Are you sure you want to marry me?" She nodded. I stared at her and said, "Anna, hold out your hand." She held out her hand and I placed the family heirloom ring on her finger. That evening after we got our marriage certificate, we stood under a street lamp. It was drizzling in Beijing. We shared an umbrella. She asked, "Are you going back to school after this?" I shook my head. "The students are on winter break." She said her flight back to Paris was tonight. I nodded and said, "Okay, go ahead then." She snorted with amusement. "I mean, do you want to come with me to meet my mother?" Outside the airport glass wall, the sky had gone into that blue hour. We boarded the plane to Paris. We left this city that held too many of my painful memories. On the plane, she suddenly handed me a card. I looked at it, stunned. She said she never imagined we'd actually get married. The money on that card had originally been intended as a wedding gift for me and Willow. "Consider it the deposit for our wedding home," she said. I checked the balance on the card and couldn't help but say, "If you really give this to me, I should owe you a change my mind fee." I added, "It's crowded on the plane now. When there's fewer people, I'll do a proper kowtow to you." The week we arrived in Paris happened to be Christmas season. Anna took me to meet her mother. "So you're George," her mother said with a smile. I asked, "You know me?" "Of course," she replied. "When Anna was a teenager, her notebooks." Before she could finish, Anna quickly changed the subject. On the way back to the villa, snow began to fall. I held her hand as we walked, leaving footprints on the starlit path. We bought a lot of things, decorating the lakeside villa until it looked perfect. Inside, the heating was warm and soft. I lifted her into my arms. Her pale skin flushed faintly pink. Strands of hair stuck to her damp forehead, and her misty eyes fixed on me with startling clarity. She raised her hand easily to hook it around my neck, but I caught her wrist instead, pulling her closer. It gave me the chance to go further. I said, "Anna, say something." She asked breathlessly. "Say, what?" I replied. "Anything." The next second, she tried to speak, but her words broke apart into fragments. She couldn't form a complete sentence. I had done it on purpose. That morning, I stood before the floor-to-ceiling window and took a picture of the Paris sunrise. I posted it on social media. 2 messages arrived soon after. One was from Freya, "Will you come back for my banquet?" The other was from Willow's mother, "George, Auntie wants to introduce you to a nice girl." I replied to both. Then I went back to bed, and Anna curled into my arms. She whispered that we'd go back to country in a few days for the engagement ceremony. She was the kind of woman who wanted things official, every proper step taken, every title earned. Chapter 8. He's not capable of that, Willow said. After the banquet ended, she went home. All the way, she kept wondering why hadn't Anna invited her to the engagement party. Anne, who was Anna marrying? When she got home, she saw her mother picking out dresses, clearly preparing for something formal, like a wedding. Willow leaned against the doorway, watching silently for a long time. Her mother jumped. "Goodness, you scared me. Can't you make some noise when you come in?" Willow pressed her lips together. "I was thinking." She didn't explain further. Instead, she asked, "Are you going to Anna's engagement party?" Her mother froze for a moment, her expression turning complicated. You already know, she asked. Yeah. Mrs. Liu studied her daughter carefully. Willow frowned. Why are you all looking at me like that? It's just Anna getting engaged. Are you going? Her mother asked quietly. Of course. Willow stepped out onto the balcony and pulled out her phone. Even though she'd been blocked, she still remembered George's number by heart. The call connected. Are you free on Saturday? She asked. I said. Why? Come with me to Anna's engagement banquet. You still remember who she is, right? When I didn't answer, she spoke softly. I won't bring a gift, let's just count ours together as one. She paused, then added. George, you know what I mean, right? I stayed silent. For once, she was patient, until another voice came from my side, Anna's. Sorry, that doesn't work, she said lightly. He doesn't need to prepare any gift money. A few seconds passed. Willow's voice trembled. Why? She asked. It wasn't clear whether she was asking why Anna was the one answering, or why I didn't need to give anything. Anna chose to answer the latter. Willow, she said calmly. Why would my husband need to give a wedding gift to anyone? Silence. Only the faint sound of breathing came through the line. Then Willow said quietly, give the phone back to George. Her voice was emotionless, almost too calm. I took the phone. She asked. When were you planning to tell me? I wasn't. I said truthfully, slowly. We were never really anything, were we? You know that, right? On the other end, Willow gave a soft laugh, cold, like a gust of winter wind slipping straight into one's heart. Her laugh carried a faint, shaky breath, half real, half broken. You should have said so earlier, she murmured. What were you so afraid of? I told you before, she added, her tone light but sharp. I hope you meet someone better than me. A pause. As long as you really love her. Chapter 9. Before the engagement banquet, Anna came to my house to meet my parents. My mom smiled warmly and said, Aunt Lou is George's godmother. She's treated him like her own son since he was little. After dinner, my mom told us to go visit Aunt Lou's house and pay our respects to the elders there too. Come in, Aunt Lou said cheerfully, holding Anna's arm as she chatted with her. I glanced toward the courtyard outside. The small pinwheel Willow and I had made together as kids still hung from the old tree branch. When I turned back, I unexpectedly met Willow's eyes. She was standing at the staircase, wearing slippers, slowly walking down from the second floor. I hadn't expected her to be home. She'd barely visited her parents' house in recent years. How come she was suddenly showing up so often? Aunt Lou laughed and asked, so you two are having a flash marriage? Not really, Anna said. We've known each other for a while. I introduced them, Willow said suddenly, slipping into the conversation with a quiet voice. And in the end, they got together, and I was the last one to know. She smiled faintly at Anna. Pretty shameless. Huh. Aunt Lou didn't catch the edge in her tone. She chuckled happily, wrapping an arm around her daughter. That's a good thing. That makes you their matchmaker. I interjected. Actually, not exactly, I explained. Anna and I met back in high school, in sophomore year. Yeah, right, Willow said, rolling her eyes as she sat across from me. What did she have to do with anything back then? Anna turned to Aunt Lou and said calmly, he didn't like me at the time. Willow asked, and you're sure he likes you now? The question was directed at Anna, but her eyes were locked on me. The table fell silent for a few seconds. Willow's gaze was steady, full of certainty. What are you saying? Aunt Lou broke the tension with a laugh. They're getting married soon. Of course he likes her. She brushed the subject aside and began chatting with Anna about other things. I turned to glance at Anna. Her expression stayed composed, but I could sense her unease. Beneath the table, unseen by anyone, she reached out and poked the tip of my finger lightly. I tried to catch her hand, but missed. She wiggled her fingers slightly, teasing, her way of saying not good enough. When she reached out again, I caught her hand completely this time, our fingers interlocking tightly. That made her smile. I couldn't help smiling too as I looked up, only to meet Willow's eyes. She was staring straight at me, her gaze drifting downward. She'd seen everything. Chapter 10. The engagement banquet. Willow stood with a group of friends at the reception area, staring at the photo of Anna and me on the welcome board. They signed in one after another. When it was her turn, the person before her passed her the pen. She took it, but suddenly, she couldn't bring herself to write her own name. It felt wrong. Her name didn't belong on the guest list of this wedding. She pulled the pen back slightly, wrote nothing, and handed it to the next person. I told you so, Freya said beside her, taking the pen and quickly signing her name. Even George is getting married, becoming someone else's husband now. She watched Willow carefully, waiting for some reaction, but Willow only asked, in a dazed voice, do you think George will kiss her? Freya blinked. They're married, what do you think? Then she stopped mid-sentence, because the obvious answer suddenly looked cruel. Willow's face had gone pale. Freya had never seen her look like that before. Hey, Don't, she began. Don't what? Willow interrupted coldly. Don't be sad. She gave a short, bitter laugh. Why would I be sad? Last night, lying in bed, Willow had kept telling herself, only a lunatic would lose control at someone else's engagement party, and she refused to be that lunatic. She entered the banquet hall and stood by the door. Anna was dressed in a white cheapao, elegant and stunning. Someone raised a glass to her, and I stepped forward to block it for her. Such a beautiful bride. Someone said, George, you're a lucky man. I chuckled awkwardly. Anna's tall figure and celebrity-like face drew every gaze in the room. She sensed my look and turned to link her arm through mine, smiling back. Someone nearby said jokingly, looks like they're really into each other. Another guest nudged Willow and said, see, mutual love, right, Willow. Willow didn't reply. Her eyes followed Anna as she walked toward the restroom. Through the garden trees, under drooping locust blossoms, memories flooded back. She remembered someone once teasing her. You two in black and white look like you're attending your own wedding. Funny, she was also wearing an off-white knit dress today. So why wasn't anyone saying that now? Why was everyone only talking about Anna? Her thoughts drifted. She remembered high school, every afternoon after class. Turning back to see George waiting by the gate with his bike, she remembered that snowy night years ago, the way his hand brushed through her hair. A sharp ache rose in her chest, forcing tears into her eyes. She had only meant to go to the restroom, but her steps grew quicker, until she found herself standing right in front of Anna. Just before her hand swung out, Willow thought, I must be insane, but what did it matter? She had nothing left anyway. Why should everything be taken from her? Anna took the first slap without dodging. She knew Willow, stubborn, prideful, holding everything in. Anna had always understood her too well. She knew Willow loved, but never cherished. That's why Anna had never planned to let go. She knew too well the pain of loving someone you couldn't have. Anna couldn't help it. She laughed. Willow's second slap came fast, but Anna dodged it perfectly and said, oh no, what can you do? He's my husband now. That made Willow even angrier. She raised her hand again, but Anna sidestepped easily once more, sneering. He's my husband, la la la, go ahead, hit me then. Willow was furious, her voice sharp as a blade. Homewrecker, shut up. The final slap came fast and hard. This time, Anna didn't dodge. She raised her hand and slapped back. A sharp crack echoed through the corridor. A thin line of blood appeared at the corner of Willow's mouth. Anna's expression was calm, almost cold. So what if I'm the homewrecker? I admit it. But tell me, what does that matter? The one who isn't loved is the real outsider. By the time I heard the commotion, it was already over. When I reached the veranda, they had already torn into each other. As I turned the corner, Willow was walking toward me. Her lips were bleeding, but she forced a shaky smile. It's nothing, she said softly, just a bit of blood. George, don't worry. She thought I was worried about her, but I slapped her across the face, hard. How dare you hit my wife? I shouted. Are you out of your mind? Willow froze, clutching her cheek, her eyes wide. You're protecting her, not me, I snapped. Who else would I protect? Then I asked coldly. She's my wife. Who are you? Shock and heartbreak flashed across Willow's eyes. She trembled all over, unable to say a word. I turned to leave, but she grabbed my sleeve. Her voice broke. You don't want me anymore? I'm married, I said flatly. What do you think? She choked out. We never broke up. I pressed my fingers against my brow. You're the one who said that. Willow, I said slowly. I pried her hand off mine one finger at a time. We were never really together. There's nothing to break up from. She stared blankly as I walked away, just like all those times I'd once watched her walk away from me. When I reached the veranda, I saw Freya standing beside Anna. They were talking quietly. Freya said, honestly, I've watched this whole thing for years. You know how much George loved Willow. Can you really be sure he'll love you the same way? Anna blinked, then smiled faintly, looking down. That's fine, she said softly, as long as he loves me even a little. Whatever he says goes. Chapter 11. After that day, Willow Lou ran a high fever. I heard she was hospitalized. It sounded serious. Mrs. Lou called and asked if I could go see her in the hospital. I politely declined. I was preparing to move into the apartment we'd bought a few days earlier. A few weeks later, the last time I went home to collect my things was on a snowy night, a late, unexpected spring snowfall. Someone opened the door to come in. I thought it was my mom, but it was Willow. Are you moving out? She asked. I nodded. She had lost weight. She looked like she'd rushed over, pale, snowflakes on her shoulders. Wasn't you supposed to be in the hospital? I asked. She gave a half smile. You never came to see me once. I didn't want to, I said. She didn't expect such bluntness. Her eyes trembled. She offered me a box she'd brought. You left some things at my place, she said. Inside were the letters I'd written to her over more than a decade, one after another. Willow appeared in almost every important moment of my school years. I don't want them. Throw them away, I said. If you want them thrown away, do it yourself, she replied. I picked up the box and started toward the door. She let me go, but when I reached the threshold, I found the door locked. What's this? I asked. Sorry, she said, handing me the key. I forgot. I reached for it, but she gripped the key with both hands and tugged, struggling with me. Don't leave me, please, she begged, her voice utterly humble. Her voice broke, and then I realized she was crying. She asked me a string of whys. Why, after loving me for so many years, could I say I didn't love her anymore? Why did I turn away this time when I'd always turned back before? Why couldn't I wait for her? She said she'd come back to start over with me. Now she loved me even more than she had when I first loved her. I snatched the key away. A deep disgust rose up inside me. So what? You love me, so I have to respond, I asked. Did you ever respond to me all those years? Not once. I don't have time for this, I said. I took a lighter from my pocket and set the box of letters alight. The flames danced in her eyes. She lunged forward, using her hands to separate the burning pages and stamp out the embers. Fear spread through her as she worked, ignoring the cuts on her hands until the fire was fully extinguished. The letters were already charred black. She looked up. By then, I was gone. Chapter 12. These days, work at the university had been hectic, and I also had to travel out of town for a few days with no clear return date. Anna and I had barely spoken during that time. A week later, her mother messaged me to say she had mailed something to us. When I arrived home, Anna was crouched by the doorway, unboxing a package. The warm entryway light fell over her face, outlining her in a soft, golden glow. Seeing me walk in, she looked surprised. You're back, she said, hurrying over to take my luggage. Then, with mock seriousness, she asked, do you even know how to text? Huh? I looked confused. Do you even know how to use your phone? She pressed. Of course I do, I said. She held out her hand. Then give it to me. I handed her my phone, but she didn't let go of my hand. Holding it firmly, she opened my WeChat, found her profile picture, tapped into the chat box, and typed, "Wife, I missed you so much." I was going to say, "This week," I began, but she suddenly threw herself into my arms, cutting me off. Her scent was sweet and clean, brushing past my nose. "I don't want to hear about work," she said softly, pouting. "You didn't miss me." "I did," I said. She smiled, her gaze gentle and steady, eyes gleaming like spring water. "Good," she whispered. "Now you know how to text properly." Then she stood on her toes and kissed me. "Next time, send it just like that." I'd rushed back home to spend the holiday with her. Work still wasn't finished, so I joined a meeting in the living room, headphones on. She turned the volume on her drama down low so she wouldn't disturb me. When the meeting ended, she brought me a cup of honey water. "You look spaced out," she said. "Was it hard?" "I was just distracted," I replied. "Ah." She blinked. I pulled her down to sit on my lap. "I've been thinking all night," I said. "Where should we go for our honeymoon?" She laughed and pushed me lightly. "Be serious." Then she went into the kitchen to cook noodles. While she was busy, I turned back to the half-unopened box her mother had sent. Inside was a small metal tin, slightly rusted. Within it lay a notebook and an empty pilot pen. Chapter 13. Back in high school, during weekend makeup classes in our second year, Anna and I were deskmates for a few short days. She was distant then, cool and hard to approach. We barely spoke. During a break, a few girls gathered around my desk, chatting excitedly. They were talking about a silly trend at the time. If you kept writing the name of the person you liked with a pen until the ink ran out, your wish would come true. I thought it was ridiculous. It's not like some kind of love potion. Writing a few words doesn't make anyone fall for you. If that worked, I'd write the name of a rich woman every day and live happily ever after. Anna heard me. That evening, she bought a whole box of pilot pens, and when she got home, she began to write, "I will forget George. I 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 will forget George." She wrote until every pen in the box ran dry, then bought more. She kept writing, from her second year of high school, all the way through her third, until graduation. When the pages finally ran out, and everything went blank, the thick notebook and the empty pens were locked away in a rusting metal tin, unseen by anyone, until years later, when I opened it. Page after page, the handwriting was neat, every stroke earnest. When I flipped to the back, where there was barely any space left, I found a new line written in smaller, finer handwriting. "Forget it. It's impossible." The date beside it, Valentine's Day, sophomore year of college, the day she flew back from abroad to see me. I picked up a new pen and quietly wrote beneath her last words, "Happy wedding, Anna." Chapter 14. I used to ask myself again and again why I couldn't let go. Later, I realized it was because love, for so long, Had no echo, but now I've finally heard it, I said. Anna. She looked up. I smiled faintly. You're really noisy. Noisy enough that the 17-year-old me, who never heard a reply, finally heard your voice at the end of my 20s.